So if somebody asked you to play something that made them get goosebumps, what would you play? There are a couple of different things that I'll get into, and we're going to go kind of step by step, and we're going to start with the harmony that I think is the most emotive of this certain style. We're always going to be sticking in a major key, and what I mean by that are the 7 diatonic chords of any given major key. So the little ditty I started off with was in the key of B major. Started on the 4 chord, 5 chord, and then the 6 chord. And that was it. And then the next time around I went 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, root chord. You can hear how that sort of feels like home. That's what the root chord can do for you, especially when you don't start on it. It establishes this sort of suspension in the harmony that I think is really nice. So a lot of my favorite chord progressions and chord progressions that I'm going to recommend in this video don't actually start on the 1 chord. They involve the 1 chord most of the time, but I find that the effectiveness of that root chord is much more potent when you put it somewhere else in the chord progression as opposed to the beginning of it. So we have the 4, 5, 6, 1, and then I come back 4, 5, 6, and then we have this right here. It's a D sharp, so it's the 3 minor chord, but I have this suspended right here. So this is an A sharp, and that gives us this sound, which is a minor 7 sharp 5. I really like that dissonance, but it's a pretty dissonance, I think, and again is sort of setting up this harmony to not necessarily feel like it's ever going to end. And that's what I'm getting to here, is this harmony should be cyclical and just feel like it can just keep going and going and going, this feeling of endlessness. So as you can hear, I can just loop this chord progression and it feels like it's never going to stop because there doesn't really feel like a home base. With that understanding, now we can get into a few different chord progressions. I'm not necessarily telling you to copy these. You're welcome to. Anyone can play any chord progression. You can't copyright harmony. But just some more ideas for you to take the concept and run with it. So again, we're just sticking in the diatonic major key chords. So let's take a different key, for example. Let's take G major. So the diatonic chords of G major. So now that you have that sound in your head, you can choose certain chords, again, maybe omitting the root to start with. And I like having a minor chord that is sort of the height of the first turnaround. So what we had first was the 4, 5, 6. So in the key of G, that would have been C major, D major, E minor. And I played that as examples for other things in my videos in the past. But we're going to get away from that, and I'm going to give you a different chord progression. So how about something like this? There's another one. 5, 6, 4. So you're starting to notice a little pattern here. I find if you really want to give someone goosebumps, you use those chords, the 4, 5, and 6 chords in some order, and every now and then you can throw in maybe the root to give it a different flavor, or maybe a 3 chord, but the point is I find that these chord progressions that a lot of really great guitar players today tend to harp on, and a chord progression that I think is extremely popular in many different ways, is this 4, 5, 6 in some iteration. And again, it's really simple, the harmony side of it. It's just the 4, 5, and the 6, and you can put it in whatever order, which brings me to the next point of this guitar playing style that you need to know is the melodic rhythm. So the little melodies that happen under these chords paired with the rhythmic aspect. So the rhythm of the melody, where the melody notes happen against the chords, will dictate the amount of goosebumps or the style of goosebumps you give to somebody, but also just the rhythm in general, the harmonic rhythm, how the chords flow together, where the chords happen in each respective measure. So that is totally a creative decision, but as you heard there, I chose to go real quick from the 6 to the 4 chord. So the 4 chord was really the focus, but that 5-6 transition was really important to establish a bit of a mood, because if I just went from the 5 to the 4, not really doing that much for us. But when we add in the 6, so with that, you can understand just how much you can get out of a very simple chord progression. And again, coming back to this, so that is as simple as it can get as far as a harmony perspective. And then we have a couple little lick style things that I'm popping in here and there. These are really the nuances that make the goosebumps really perk up. So coming back to this chord progression here, it's super simple as far as the melody is concerned. It's just a major third, minor third. And if you've ever heard when somebody's telling you how to write a song, or trying to be effective with your guitar solos and melodies, etc., they're always harping on the fact that playing the third is a good thing. As you can hear, the third is just an extremely expressive note. You can use a 9, and that's nice, but it's better to use those extensions like a 9, 11, 13 in passing, not necessarily as your focus note. So the third is usually a great way to build melodies, and especially with this chord progression happening in the background, there's a lot going on as far as the solo guitar accompaniment, so you don't really have to be that complex. So we have a major third, minor third. But if you noticed here on this major third, even though this is my target note, I have this little nuance. And that is using the 9 and the 11, but still harping on this major third. And you can do that wherever you want to, and it doesn't have to be complicated, just 1 or 2 little slides. Pretty simple. So we've gone over real basic harmony. The 4, 5, and 6 chords should be kind of the focus of whatever chord progression you're coming up with. The chord forms that I'm using are basically a root note and a melody note. I'm not even getting into 3-part chords that much. My foundation in the rhythm department, both from a melodic perspective and a harmonic perspective, is definitely the focus. So if you were to just take the bass, a little bit of percussion happening with the muting, but really just that, but then paired with an accented melodic note. So I'll give you a couple of these little licks. They're based on triads. And this is just built upon the third possession of the minor pentatonic scale. That's how I'm thinking about it. So something like this. Moving into that 4th position. And I'm just taking notes right from there. It's all barred. And if your home base would be this position that you're used to, you can come over here and maybe play something nice. That little nuance, you've heard me talk about this before. The bends with the slurs. It's another element to really give somebody some goosebumps. They're like, ooh, what was that? You can do that on guitar? So, with all of those things combined, I hope you enjoyed this lesson on how to give somebody goosebumps with your guitar playing. Keep shredding.